Game over. It has just finished. Philippines 1, Singapore 2, meaning that Singapore continue their winning start to this tournament, which of course they host. They've played to 1-2. Philippines, the first game, they had a bye in match day 1 as the groups are made up of 5. So this was their first game. It was a crucial game for them, and it is a game that they have lost, putting them currently out of the top 2 places. But there's a lot of football left to play. The game has shaped up interestingly, given the fact that Myanmar beat Timor-Leste in the earlier kickoff today, putting Timor-Leste on 0 points, as many people would have expected, but Myanmar 3 points on the board, which put them before kickoff on level points with Singapore and Thailand. Now, Thailand haven't played this game week as they are the side with a bye, but it meant for Singapore, a win would put them in a commanding position. For Philippines, a win would put them right up there with the rest of the sides and would leave Timor-Leste a little bit in the mud with a few tough games coming up. Well, it was a competitive game, wasn't it? It was a feisty game. I could literally skip to the 62nd minute because there wasn't a lot of action in the first half. I thought that Singapore had the better of the first half. I thought that the front three were playing really well. I thought that Quack was playing particularly well down the right-hand side for Singapore. Had a few early chances, nothing massively to write home about. And then the game started to get a bit scrappy, a bit feisty. The key figure in that, of course, Stefan Schrock, who was booed from the get-go by the home fans. And there was a few big challenges that went flying in from both teams. I think it's worth saying that whilst not a lot happened in the first half, a few Philippines fans will quite rightly be upset by the refereeing performance. I don't want to take anything away from Singapore from this game. I thought they played well, particularly in the second half. But I must say, I thought the referee was very poor. I thought he was very biased towards the home side. Singapore, I say the home side, not the home side in the fixture, but the home side, of course, for the tournament, which is Singapore. And the Singapore crowd got on his back, and I feel like he did crumble a little bit under that pressure, the referee. And there was a lot of decisions. There was a free kick in particular that almost led to a goal. It was given for handball. It clearly strikes the chest of the defender first and then moves on to the arm. And as we know, the changes in the handball rule, if you're a defender, if your arm's not in an unnatural position, the ball strikes your chest first and then hits your arm, that's not handball. It's just not handball. And there's been a few decisions throughout this game. I actually wrote down, because obviously I'm scribbling notes as I go through, I put referees as Singapore fan, and I don't think that massively changed throughout the first half. I thought that Quack was the best player in the first half, definitely the first half an hour. There's a few chances towards the end of the first half. It really took about 40 minutes for this game to get going. There was a few wayward shots from both teams, nothing really to write home about, and it was half-time 0-0, which was a fair result, but I was a little bit worried. I knew I was going to be doing a match review, and I thought, I'm not going to have anything to talk about. It's going to be a 30-second video. But the second half eventually got going. The first 15 minutes of the first half, I thought that the Philippines were just a bit too slow on the ball, and I thought they were like that for the whole game, really. The more it went on, the more that Singapore gained from just their fast action play. They get the ball and they ping it, or it's, a few interpasses, and then it goes semi-direct to the front three, who, you got Iksan Fandi through the middle as the target man, but they play it out to the wing a lot, and they didn't have a cutting edge. That was the only downside to their performance for the first 60 minutes, Singapore. They were getting into good attacking positions, but had no cutthroat, had no cutting edge. Whereas I really thought that the Philippines were way off. I thought they were so slow in the build-up. Every time they got the ball, it came backwards. It didn't go forwards enough. The only player that was really looking to play forward passes was Schrock. And it lacked something. And, not to sort of skip to the end a little bit, but I'll be interested to see how the Philippines get on in this tournament. Their next game's against Timor-Leste. Of course, we know they've lost today. They should beat Timor-Leste. Everyone should beat Timor-Leste, and that's no disrespect to East Timor, but they are the poorest side in the competition. And I think that they've improved, and their results haven't been bad. 2-0 defeats is nothing bad at all, but Philippines have to win that game. A draw won't do. And I thought they lacked cutting edge today. So I'll be really, really interested in that fixture, which is played this weekend. Then the goal came, and it came from a corner flicked on at the near post, and a simple header by the unmarked captain Harris on the 62nd minute. It was a comfy goal, really. Direct free kick, flicked on. He's onside at the back post, heads it in unmarked. Really poor marking. You need to remember as a defender, even if the ball doesn't go towards you from the initial ball, if you're at the back post and it goes to the front stick, you can't take that step forward. You can't push out at that point, because a flick on, we see it all the time. There's a player lurking at the back stick, and it was a neat little header into the bottom corner, 1-0. And then, oh my word, what happened? Because there was 2 goals in 45 seconds. 2 goals in 45 seconds. Philippines from kickoff, a little bit slow, dawdling around the back. They eventually spray a ball out wide. It's intercepted. The ball is pushed down the wing and crossed in. A stunning delivery. One of the best assists I've seen in this tournament so far. He's running at full pace, whips the ball to the back post. It's a cross where the defender can't do anything because he'll only turn it into his own net, and it's too far out for the keeper to come. And it was an absolutely brilliant finish from Faris Romley at the back stick as well on the 63rd minute. 2 goals in just 45 seconds. From the Philippines' point of view, you can't do that. You can't. It was strange. They went back from kickoff, but everyone flooded forward. They ended up having to spray it out wide. Don't get me wrong, it was a terrible ball, miscontrolled. And then no one's back. And the pace that Singapore have is going to catch a lot of teams out. Of course, Singapore have played Myanmar and the Philippines so far. They've got 2 great wins. They have no game in the next match day. They will then play Timor-Leste as well. If they win that game, then they shouldn't be too worried about the final fixture. They have the hardest fixture on paper, which is, of course, Thailand. But they will be hoping that by the time that they get to that next match day, they'll be still 3 points clear. Of course, you have to come top 2 out of the 5 teams. They're top at the moment, 3 points clear of everyone. So they can't really be overtaken unless Thailand get a really high score in the next game against Myanmar, which it will be interesting to see. But then it was 2-1. A corner from the Philippines, whipped in, good inswinger, and Ahmed Nazari flicked it in, and on the 69th minute it was 2-1. I thought, okay, we've got a game on here. And there was a lot of half chances from that point. There was nothing clear cut. Nobody had any real sitters. And if a team, I felt personally, if a team was going to score a third, I did think it was going to be Singapore. Now, I say that as the game started to progress and progress and progress. Philippines were knocking at the door more and more, had plenty of corners. But I just felt on the counter-attack, Singapore were the side that were going to cause any big problems. Nazari gave the ball away on about 75 minutes and it could have been 3-1. Iksan Fandi had a few chances as well to potentially add to the scoreline. Whereas for the Philippines, I thought every time it had to go through Schrock, he was trying to whip balls into the box, but they didn't just have the physical presence that they needed to dominate this game. If you're from the Philippines, you're probably not overly concerned by the fact that you've lost this game. It's 2-1, it was a close game, but you will be desperate for a win against Timor-Leste. And don't start hitting the panic button now, but if you anything other than a comfy win in that game against Timor-Leste, and you will start to worry. There was 5 minutes of added time at the end of the game, but the Philippines, despite a lot of pressure, couldn't make anything count. It was hard fought. The second half was really entertaining. The first half was poor. I don't think either side gripped the challenge very well. For me, Faris Romley was my man of the match out on the left wing for Singapore. I thought he was the best player on the pitch today. I thought that a number of players played okay for the Philippines, but they really needed a striker. I don't, obviously, I'm not from the Philippines, so I don't know too much about the national side, but if you are and you watch this, what would you do differently for the second game? Now, I know it's against Timor-Leste. You could probably play exactly the same and win the game, maybe 2-0. Would you make any changes ahead of this next game? What do you think lacked in this particular fixture? And of course, if you are watching and you're from Singapore, you can relax now. You can relax the next match day. Just watch the games come in. You can rest players. The front three, relatively interchangeable, but Fandi and Faris Romley will need a few days rest, and then you can go again against Timor-Leste. You just have to beat Timor-Leste and you'll pretty much be through to the semi-finals, which would be huge for the host Singapore. I said they'd be a team to watch out for. I had a few comments back from people saying, not so sure about that. I think that it would be Thailand and the Philippines from Group A. Well, Singapore now, they are in the commanding position, and I think they'll beat Timor-Leste, and I think that they will go through the game against Thailand. We will wait and see. That's all the highlights of the game. Really, there wasn't a lot but the goals. And my overwhelming consensus, I think both of these teams could get through the group, but Philippines have to really put a marker down against Timor-Leste. Philippines need to go and 4-0 that game. And that's no disrespect to Timor-Leste, but they just need to go and they need to win that game and really go, okay, let's forget the Singapore game, let's refresh, let's go again, and let's win it. If you're from either of these sides, let me know how you thought the game went and what you think. You both play Timor-Leste next, based on how the fixtures work out. How do you see those games going? What do you think about Group B, as well, of course, the second match day to be played tomorrow for those group games? Who do you think that your sides could face in the semi-finals and indeed the final? What are your predictions for the rest of the tournament? It's been a short and sweet match review from me. I will be back tomorrow for a watch-along of the Indonesia-Cambodia game, which I'm sure will be an absolutely brilliant game. So do subscribe, do join us for that one. It's been great to have you with us. We'll see you next time.